not tied to Pearson or Hardcore. We are tied to the best resource that deals with your individual kid. So the books, carrying them around like we did, no, they don't have to do that. And if we have books, they'll be kind of classroom sets. We expect to have devices in September, so they'll get their device, and then that interaction will happen. Most of their instruction will happen through that. Yes, ma'am.
Will there be a parent portal for us to be able to kind of monitor assignments and stuff?
I believe there is through Schoolmint. Is it?
No, it's WebSmart.
It's through Westmark?
Yes. So we'll get all the information after. Yes. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Guys that play football in middle school, do they need to come at a certain time and they don't take a shower? It's going to be like from 6 to 8. I hadn't heard anything.
Yeah, so there's no showers here. There's no showers. They do, middle school football is at 7. It goes, then they'll have athletic period at 8. So they'll already be there. Athletics, he'll stop practice at 8:30 so they can get back into their regular gear. And then their next period will be 9 o'clock.
So I'm assuming they need to bring in personal hygiene.
Yes.
What they need.
Yeah.
And of course they clothes for transferring, I guess, a backpack for
Yeah.
regular clothes.
Yeah. And you don't have to have a clear backpack. Our security, let me go over that for you. We have a comprehensive approach to security. Number one, the most important is that we're going to build a relationship with the kid, right? The kid's going to be connected to somebody or something on campus. If you've heard any of the tragedies that happen, you're not going to hear the star football player went nutty after a loss and came back to the school. It's kid disconnected from the school. So our first thing is, that's number one, positive relationships with kids. Kids are involved in multiple activities because that's an additional adult that is monitoring that student. Second, we have cameras. You can see cameras are all over the campus. Third, which is the most important, is that when your kids are in the classroom and on our property, we want them to be kids. We want them to be in the learning. So where the getting access on the campus at the gate is where our security staff will be. So they'll be there checking parents, obviously for the flow of traffic. When you come in, dropping kids off, everybody's gonna be monitoring that, moving in. But at a certain time, those gates will shut. There'll be an armed security officer at the gate, and in order to get into the facility, you have to go through him. Then they go through the front door, check in, again. So those are our procedures, or our stopgaps for any emergency. But when we're on campus, we want kids to feel like, I'm going to class, not seeing an officer walking through with an AK-47, right? Which on campus I came to, we had 3 campus officers. And so we're not policing kids. And here's the thing about that, and it's, we'll take your feedback on this and continue to develop our policy. But their job, when law enforcement comes into a building, their job is to identify a threat, isolate the threat, remove the threat. My job as a school principal, educate kids, every kid. Invite them back to educate them some more. Every kid. And so once we start having the police interacting with kids on a regular basis, what they're doing is looking for the threat, to identify the threat, remove the threat. And so some of our kids and some of the behaviors in school are age-appropriate behaviors. We can't eliminate that, right? They're going to have conflict. They're going to look at each other and say, what you want to do? And then we're going to be there to say, hey, move around. Or we need to have a conversation, step over here. But at no point for age-appropriate activity do we want our kids walking out of here in handcuffs with a felony charge or juvenile charge for something they did as a 12-year-old. You know, for looking at each other wrong. And they're sitting over here in these glass rooms to cool off in handcuffs, right? That's not what we're about. We want our kids to be free, just like we were when we were little. When we talk about, man, in my day, I could walk back, I could go to the park all day, and nothing ever happened. But no, stuff was happening, right? We just weren't thinking about it. Or our parents were the ones nervous, worried. And so they protected us, we want to protect them, so that's our security plan in place. We'll be bringing in experts again to see how we can better that, right, for emergency situations. We're unique because every room has big glass windows, right? So we can't take, just like in the regular class book, it's not designed for us. So the plans that you get off the internet or what they say in every school district can't happen here because it's a different plan we have to put in place. So that is our security one. It's getting access on the facility is where we have our most effort. Once they're in, it's developing the relationships with kids, monitoring, watching their patterns of behavior. Before you know it, at lunchtime, if you have a high school kid and they're able to go wherever they want on the high school side, you're going to come in at 12 and they're going to say, I know it's lunchtime, and they can be wherever. Do you know where he is? Yeah, he sits over here every single day. And you go grab him, hey, your mom's here. Because they're patterns of behavior. I was able to do that with 3,000 kids going to lunch at the same time, right? So that's our goal, that's our model. That's my philosophy. I'm sure that's some of the philosophies of our teachers, and they will just be doing the same thing. We will be doing the same thing over and over, duplicating to build those, and making sure y'all feel comfortable when they come to school. So if you have any feedback with that, if that's a real concern of that plan or what we're trying to do, you know, send us a message or pull us to the side and say, hey, you know, I'm just, it's not sitting well, all right? Okay. Yes, sir.
Just to be generic, this is all new. How do you know if Johnny or Jenny is supposed to be here? They gonna have IDs or anything?
Well, they should have legacy on their chest, right? And from there, if they're dressed nice, again, I'm just kind of hedging the all the data and experiences. Anybody to do harm as far as a kid doesn't normally dress up to come do those things, right? And so if we mandate that you have to have an ID badge, guess what we have to do? Have a consequence for not having an ID badge. So they come in this classroom and they don't have their ID badge. The teacher says, where's your ID badge? Well, you got to go here. A little less learning is taking place, right? And so, again, if that, we're trying to see what the community wants, right?
You're trying to be proactive.
Right. I get it, right?
I could get a legacy shirt, you know, from somebody puts their band down there playing ball or something. I could grab his shirt and walk away.
Okay, so I'm gonna tell you, this is my thought process behind it. Does anybody have a lanyard with the badge? Does anybody have a badge, a work badge on them? Can you pass it forward real quick for a demonstration? I can work at her job too. Right? Because I look the part. Good morning. You get what I'm saying? I mean, so this is not going to protect you. It's not bulletproof. It's not, you can't see her name, right? But you would think they belong here because they have that.
Put your heart on.
with the heart, right?
If you didn't have it, I challenge you. Where's your bag?
Yeah. So, and then what, I mean, but it's, what are we challenging them for, right?
You're stopping from going forward.
So we stopped them when they came in the door.